Hey team, welcome to the Football Feast podcast. I'm your host, Craig Evans, and over the next 6 episodes, we'll be diving deep into what it takes for young players to become an elite footballer. Every fortnight, I'll be sitting down with experts from the world of football, agents, coaches, nutritionists, and more, to give you insider tips, advice, and strategies to make those football dreams a reality. Today, we kick things off with a bang. Our first guest is Alan Deriard, the founder of Elite Football Australia and Australia's #1 player agent. In this episode, we discuss the dodgy academy experiences, what parents and players can expect when the child gets picked up, and what negotiations look like, what to look for in an agent, strategies to use to get picked up, what are the biggest mistakes players make when trying to get picked up, why girlfriends and boyfriends are a big no-no, and much, much more. Enjoy. Alan, thanks for jumping on. It's good to sort of finally touch base and to meet properly. So welcome to the Football Feast podcast and the first episode of the Future Stars series. I'm pretty excited about this. I think a lot of parents and young athletes are going to get a lot from this, and hearing about your experience and what you can sort of provide them and tips and tricks basically of how they can make it. So thanks for jumping on.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me and for coming to the house. Short stay in Adelaide, but I'm glad we could sort of make it happen.
Yeah.
Definitely,
me too. All right, so sort of the first question I've got here is, how do you get started into player management?
So with the start, I guess there's many ways I can sort of go about it. Ultimately, the grasp of it is I had a very bad experience trying to make it as a professional athlete, as an amateur back when I was trying to make it. Things didn't go my way and I went down the wrong pathways, and I tried a lot of different things and basically got scammed, basically, whatever you want to call it. Nothing went the way I wanted it to go. And I think, if I'm just being honest, it's more the anger inside that I have of still the fact that I couldn't make that a reality for myself. Not feeling like I had it in control. And I feel like I'm someone that needs to feel like I have, everything in control and sort of make stuff happen. So that's probably one of the other things that kind of got away from me. And so now it's just the pivot of going, well, how can I sort of do it for other people? I guess it's the second best thing, right?
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Like, you're taking like your loss and sort of turning it into a strength, and then you're helping others with that. And that's beautiful. In fact, that's really like you're giving. So that's cool. I must say, actually, like, from my perspective, like when you hear about agents, or you sort of, they like tend to be hiding in the shadows sort of thing, like, hear rumors of them and stuff like that. But you're sort of bringing that game into sort of the face of everyone, and it's actually really refreshing to see. And it's quite exciting from my perspective to see someone sort of open it and make it really, like, I guess, brighter and sunnier, and sort of like show and tell sort of what it looks like and what can be done, and the wins as well. So because usually it like seems like an agent's like a black coat, a trench coat, and in the shadows, and the car dealer.
Yeah. Look, there's probably a few reasons for that. I think primarily, put it this way, every time I walk into any discussion, any club negotiation, any meeting room or whatever, I'm probably the youngest by 20, 30 years, right? So age is probably a reason for that, is that the people that are probably in the game and people that work in sort of just clubs in general are probably a lot older than I guess I am. And then the other thing, the other point would be probably that most agents, in my opinion, are pretty shonky. And so they probably don't want to be, publicly about what they're doing, because they do a lot of more bad than good, I would say. And so that's probably why I think the agents do get a bad rep, but I think it is for the most part deserved, even in the industry, because the majority are a bit chunky. It's almost like the academy industry here in Australia, where it's like, the name is probably fair, that it leans more to one side than the other. But hey, it is what it is.
There almost needs to be like you know, on eBay where you get like those star ratings, or even like Uber or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
People should be able to do like their Uber rating or something like that of agents and that, and
Yelp
the
reviews.
academies.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'll put you down for 5
oh,
stars.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, wow, yeah, that's amazing because you hear about sort of the dodgy deals and things like that, and sometimes it's hard to like, you know, is that going on, or like, is that believable? Is the tabloids or papers sort of, I don't know, selling copies, I guess, but yeah, it's interesting to hear.
It's also like, I guess when you're running a business or you're doing things, you don't really want to tell people what you're doing. You don't really want to show your secrets because you work so hard to like achieve something that it's like, why would you sort of give it away for free kind of thing? And so I kind of get it. I understand like why people don't want to make content, why they don't want to like, you know, show it. Like to give you an idea, like everything I show that we do is probably only like 20-30% of what we're actually doing in the company, like all the real behind the scenes. There's actually like a lot that I would love to actually show and be like, how cool is this? You know, like come with me, do this, like listen to this, like me or whatever, but
Yeah.
I just can't. And there's other stuff that, you know, me and Maurice and the team behind Elite Football work really hard on, like deals and how we actually make money and all this other stuff that I'd love to talk about one day, but it's sort of, that's the secret sauce kind of thing. So what I show is sort of almost just like skimming the surface, you know? Yeah, you just skim the surface and show like the sort of highlights, the cool stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not, for me, it's not actually the cool stuff.
Yeah, wow, interesting. So what is the cool stuff?
So I can't say, but it is just a lot of work-based stuff that we do that I think people wouldn't think that we did. You know? Yeah.
Wow, very interesting. Very mysterious. Maybe you've got a black trench coat back there or something.
Yeah, don't go in the back room.
Okay, so what does sort of being an agent look like then? Because I guess when people think of it, they think of like negotiations and, you know, a lot of, like secret meetings and stuff like that. So I guess, what does it entail?
Look, I guess my job roles have been different every facet of the journey as I've grown in the industry. An agent can be, the first things that people would think about would be club negotiations and talking about a player, trying to get them deals or whatever. That's the clear one. I think the other one is being a therapist, you know, a lot of the times hand-holding players and parents and any worries they have when they're struggling overseas. You know, you find yourself, I swear I've got a degree in psychology by now. That sort of stuff. I think now, after being sort of years in the game and trying to make something that's beyond just me and dad, bringing employees in and having a team that's working around you and having to manage everything, and all of a sudden you're not working with a few players, now you're working with a lot more players, but then when you have successful players, you know, and you've got to do different stuff with them than you were doing when they were an amateur trying to transition, all this sort of thing. So really it's just like any other business for me today. I think if you look at any business and how it scales and how it grows, there's so many similarities. Like it's all really the same sort of formula. It's a different industry and you just have to sort of move the pieces for it to work and for it to be healthy. So yeah, really now I honestly just feel like a business owner. I'm just trying to manage teams, trying to teach, trying to basically what I was doing a year ago, teach someone else to do for me, and then what I'm doing now in a year's time, I'll be teaching someone else to do this sort of thing. And
have it sort of automating below you.
Kind of thing. Yeah,
wow, that makes sense. Absolutely. So what are the key factors that make a young player stand out to you?
So, well, I want to preface that I'm not a coach, you know, I'm not, as much as I say scout, I'm not a scout, you know, I am very much the business side agent. That's my forte.
But for an agent, so like when you're talking to players or when a coach brings you a player, like is there certain things you're looking at and going, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I love that. I love what he's doing here. And that makes me feel good inside and excited about his prospects.
100%. I think today, especially because I can be a bit more choosy, and I'm not just having to work with whoever, there is key, like for me, it would be sort of charisma is probably what stands out for me first from a player. A player that will like, you know, you can just tell they've not only like approaching you, like the handshake, the cracking the joke, the getting involved, the, you know, being cheeky with something, you know, with a remark, or just that personality, you know. And then I think it's those same players that sort of show that on the pitch as well. They have their sort of flair. That's the main one. I think another main one is being respectful, you know, the effort, does he make eye contact when one of the coaches at the events is, you know, saying something, or is he part of one of those two little idiots at the back laughing because he's got a Spanish accent, you know? Like, I see everything. Like, absolutely everything. Like, are they putting their bibs properly after they take it off, or are they just throwing it down, you know? When people are arguing, oh no, we've got 10 midfielders and only 2 defenders, who are the ones that are, okay, yeah, I'll go play left back. It's little things that I think players don't even think that we're noting, but when you like do so many events and you do so many different things, like you for me it's like autopilot when I do everything, so I just pick up on those little extra things, and like those are the things that I jot down and go, that's a player that's gonna have an easier transition than another player. Because when you go overseas, just to give you that next step, you know, you go overseas and you're an Australian player trying to knock on the door in some Spanish club. It's not just about me putting in the effort of trying to get you there, or you putting the effort on the pitch. It's also about, does the coach there actually want you around? Do the trainers like having you around? Are you a good guy? Do you help out? Do they like you? Do they go, no, I really want Alan to stay in this club because he's just a laugh. I love the energy he brings. The boys love him. And so they'll knock on the other head scout and they go, hey, check this boy out, you know, he's really good. And so it's like almost like a collaborative effort when a player is going that next step, because it's not just, you know, 1 or 2 people. It's a few different moving parts that have to sort of align. It's hard to tell a young player.
I really like that, and I really like that insight, because like it's explaining to players that it's not just the talent on the field, it's not just how good you are with the ball, like it's the human being as well, like those attitude qualities. And I actually seen a YouTube video recently from a US college, and they were talking about what they looked for. And they said, like, before they even like look at the players' skills, it's how they deal with the staff, like the hotel staff or the players the people handing out the bibs, like how kind they are they early, are they or late all the time? Like, it was a lot more about the actual human being and what they like gave and shown. Because I assume like at the high levels, there's only small differences between player to player. Like obviously there's the outliers, like, you know, Messi and stuff like that. But I'm assuming there's only like little tweaks between certain like I guess big groups of players. But yeah, if you can stand out in those ways, you can stand out from above the rest of them. And like you said, like going abroad, like I've got that here as well. But yeah, for an Australian lad or young lady, it's probably much more difficult to impress.
100%. I think, I mean, like with what I do, this is someone I have to talk to all the time. This is someone that's going to go overseas, that's going to ask for help from me, from my agents. Like, are they going to be trouble? Are they going to ruin my brand as well? Are they going to ruin my name or my image? Because working with amateur players is one of those tricky ones where, obviously if you work just with professional players, then it is more focused on talent, it's more focused on how much money they can provide to the club, yada, yada, yada. Amateur players, it's a different sort of conversation you have with clubs before they onboard someone, right? Are they going to affect me, you know? Are they going to, you know, go to, and I've had this before, you know, they go overseas, they're staying at the club residency or whatever, and, you know, they'll go out drinking one night or something, you know, they come late, or they'll, you know, cause a ruckus or something. There'll be a bad egg. And like for me today, like as soon as that, even the slightest side of a bad egg, like it's got to get cut, because it's just going to ruin everyone else, you know. It's just going to infect all the other players, or my other players that might be there, or even just the image, you know. And it's just one of those things.
You're going to get all the like regular phone calls about these bad behaviours, and they're going to keep coming back to you, and it's a lot more time for you to be wasting and to spend on that. Wow, yeah, that's quite interesting. What if they're an absolute gem, like an absolute diamond, and you're just like, do I take some of this?
As in like pitch performance, but bad attitude?
Yeah, like they've been like marked down, and they're like like we could have something real massive here.
Yeah.
But he's got a little bit of rough edging around him, or you get those phone calls, would you just sort of tolerate a bit more?
No.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think. How do I put it in perspective? So, okay.
If they're like that, they're probably not going to make it anyhow, are they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they do, you're talking about like the 0.00001. Like it's the odds are so low, incredibly low, that it's not worth me gambling on that and putting up with the bullshit. Because I already know how low the odds are on something like that. Like the other reason is, for example, when I first started and I was an agent, I was very worried about players screwing me over. You know, I was like, well, I was so fresh in the game from like 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, I'm doing all this work. I'm getting them into, these club direct contacts, putting them like here and there or whatever. No, they've got to sign a contract with me before, right? And I used to make players sign a contract before anything, right?
Yeah.
Which most agents do. I no longer do that because we're so strong now in the company that if a player were to go overseas and just get signed a contract or whatever, and then they didn't want to sign with me, the club would turn them over anyways just by me telling them, nah, don't accept them, right? Because that's how strong our relationships are today. So I don't even need to force a player to sign first. But for me, those bad eggs are the people that, even if you were to get them something, whatever, they'd be the people that wouldn't be happy you taking 10% of their wage, for example.
Yeah.
They'd be the ones with problem parents that'd be like trying to shift you, and all that hassle, not worth it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, this is very interesting. I'm enjoying this. Okay, so at what age should players start thinking about going abroad? Or should they hang tight here as long as possible, try and develop as much as possible here? Or is it better to get out there, get exposed to their academies and coaching and stuff like that as early as possible?
Mm-hmm. So that is based on personal situations. So, for example, when a player approaches me and they want to go overseas and try whatever, one of the first, like, depending where they're at, I'll ask them, like, well, can you afford to go overseas? Can you even make that jump? Like, it's not cheap you going over there and paying for all your stuff while you're trying to make it. It's not a cheap pathway, right? And
so as in the player going by themselves, or if their family was willing to move and to do that whole thing, then that's a bit different?
Regardless.
Right.
Yeah, regardless. Because, for example, if you were to say, if a player that was 14 were to say to me, no, my parents are tight with money, they could probably only send me for one trip, a few months, right? I would tell that player, wait till you're 18 and do that one trip. Do those few months and just go super low, super realistic, right? Hedge your bets as much as possible. If finances wasn't an issue and parents were happy to send their boy or girl, overseas once a year or whatever, and it doesn't matter, well, yeah, the earlier you can, the better. If you can do it at 13 and you can do it once a year till they're, 17, 18, before they start to take it a bit more seriously and try to go maybe lower divisions, they should do that. That's going to be the best thing. So for me, I can't just give the one advice, because I understand that every person has a different situation, when it comes to do they have a European passport or not? When it comes to even a parent or a player saying, my parents, even if I were to get some assigned scholarship or contract, they want me to finish school here and they don't actually want to move over or whatever. Well, that's going to be a different conversation then. Maybe you should wait till you're 16 or 17 and they allow you to stay at the residency of the club by yourself. So normally when I do consults, or my team, I guess, now does consults, we go through all these questions and we'll sort of guide the player or the parents to what's best for them, and they sort of answer it themselves when you just go through everything with them.
Yeah, I can imagine once you've had those questions, because there'll be a lot that I actually haven't thought about, and it is sort of mysterious, isn't it? Like, to think about going there is one thing, like, oh, it's exciting, my son can go and train with Real Sociedad or whatever, and then, yeah, it's all exciting, but there's so many factors, I'm sure, that, yeah, they have to think about, like, hey, it's a different language for a lot of people, cost of living, food differences, yeah, different world, I'm sure.
I had a player sign only early this year, and he was 13, and he signed for, it was like a third division club, right? You wouldn't know it. Everything paid for, happy to have the kid there, but he couldn't be in the residency because he was too young. He's under 16, right? So one of the parents had to, a guardian had to be there, right? And they didn't want to accept it. Now they want to move over there, and not only, like, they want me to look for a different club, which is fine, like, I will do, but they, for example, this little club that he was signed in is not in a major city,
Oh.
And so now I, as an agent, have to then focus on, well, I need to find a club that's in a major city for this player because his parents need to also work, and it's going to be easier for them in a major city rather than some, inland or whatever. And so these are all the sort of stuff that you got to sort of maneuver, and things change and chop, and most of the time people don't think about. So then you're sort of like advertising him out to those clubs, like highlights reels and stuff like that of them, and a football CV and stuff like that. Yeah, interesting. I'm sure it's more challenging to get him into those clubs first. Well, yes.
Yeah. Is it like a massive, like, I'm just assuming with like a club like Barcelona or Real Madrid or something like that, they're getting these all the time. Like, they're getting kids every year, just, can we come?
Yeah, I've signed an agreement with Real Madrid, for example. I haven't yet to send someone there. It's just, I've got to be careful what I'm going to say. It's just, the odds are very small. Right? Incredibly small. And so, it's, I don't think it's worth it for either party, in my opinion, these big clubs. Like the big clubs. And I do get requests from parents that they'll go on the website, they'll look at some of our partners about, can I go here, can I go there, can I go here? And it's just like, look, if you want an experience, like, I can do it, but I don't really want to. Like, if you're looking for an experience or whatever, or some shonky tour, there's plenty of other people that do that stuff, and you can go for your life, I guess.
So realistically, those players should be aiming at a lower level and working their way up, or making a name for themselves there.
Look, not necessarily. I've signed players to first division clubs, in their youth teams. It's just like, and I probably, for the most part, would recommend, if you're 13, 14, if you're really young, you should go pretty high. I would almost always recommend that. Try high first. We go back to what I was saying, like what the individual situation is before I make that judgment call. But if all the boxes are ticked, I think everyone should try high first. See where they fall, and if they don't make it, then go. A few reasons. One of them is that I've had players be offered a contract with a third division club in the past, and they didn't accept it because they felt like, I should have gone higher. So I would rather get that out of the way. Go higher. If you don't make it, at least you can now sleep well and then go. And so there's and all this stuff is what, like, my agency, like the support agents I have, like, they go through everything. They tick all the boxes of understanding where the player's at mentally before we even decide on their pathway, because live and learn different experiences. But that's just one reason why I'd say players should pretty go high first if they can afford it, if they can, if they got the time on their side. If you're 20, obviously forget about it, right? But sorry, I'm rambling a lot.
No, it's all very good.
But the first division clubs, like when I say the top, like your Madrids, your Barcelona, Atletico Madrid or whatever, there's also other first division clubs, but the jump between these first division clubs and these first division clubs is massive. It's gigantic.
Exactly.
It's like 2 leagues difference, and so when I say first division clubs, I'm talking about the smaller first division clubs, not the elite, crazy, impossible type of thing. Do you get me?
Yep, definitely. Wow. What are some common mistakes that young players make when trying to get noticed?
Common mistakes. Lack of knowledge, I guess, right? We don't know what we don't know. Unfortunately, the football industry is very blasé. It's very, like you're saying, trench coat at the back. No one really understands it. Knocking on the wrong doors, I think, unfortunately, it's like anything. What I've realized, it's like there's very few people that will actually research. There's very few people that will actually speak to 2 different car dealerships before buying a car. Most people are just going to go to the first car dealership, see the car they like, and buy it.
Yeah, it's
And
usually the one with flashy lights and stuff as well.
yeah, and so that's just how the world works, you know, products and everything. Like, you're going to see an ad of a product, and are you going to go research that exact product elsewhere, or are you just going to buy it straight away, right? And most people do that, and I think so I'm from the Gold Coast, right? And something that always jars me every time I like fly to Sydney or Melbourne or anywhere around Australia, my socials get flooded with ads from all these different academies. There's thousands. There's thousands of academies. There's thousands of tours. There's thousands of experience. Like, join this, do this. Like, there's so much just everywhere. It's so oversaturated that I get dizzy with it. And I just go, how is a player going to not get dizzy with like the options and the pathways and this and that? There's just so much junk.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and look, I'm not saying, you know, everything's bad. I'm not, you know, looking at every single thing, but really the 90% of it, just from first glance, is experience based and whatever. And
Yep.
that's probably the most common mistake, is not doing like the proper research of what do I want to achieve. And then, okay, how about I spend a week not doing anything, but just going through every single website, searching all around to try and find what works for me. I don't think anyone does that.
Yeah, so do you mean like, as in a player trying to find the right people to, the right academy, or the right ones, the legit people to go through or to work with? Yeah, so they should be doing research on, you know, say these ads come up and they go, oh, this academy looks nice. Take a moment to actually research it. Have they produced any players? Are they actually the real deal? You know, check their material to see if they're actually going on these journeys. And yeah, so actually putting that time in versus just signing and clicking, paying the money and going to nothing.
For me, I think that's the most important one, right? I could say something about training, or, you know, you might say something about nutrition or whatever, but ultimately exposure is what everyone needs, what everyone is actually looking for. And the crucial mistakes that people make is, in my opinion, the research.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Try get a 13, 14, 15, even 17-year-old to put in some manual labor researching what they want to do, and not just go, this looks great, I'm going to do it.
Oh man, they're so impulsive. Like, it's literally like the shiny light, or like, you know, that little fox off with the nut. He chases the nuts around Ice Age. Yeah, gets excited about the nut. He's like, oh, yeah, it reminds me of that. Yeah, we're definitely in an environment where they just see and buy. But like you're saying, like in the nutrition space, there's so much stuff there, so many diets, and eat this and eat that, and you know, people jumping on them left, right and center without actually reading about it and really asking someone with expert opinion and going, hey, does this actually work? Or does this work for me? Especially like a football player in particular. Like, I get players come to me and we look at their diet and it's really high fat, or it'd be fat, protein, really low carbs. But football in general is an anaerobic glycolytic sport, which means the energy system that we're using is all glycogen and glucose, or majority. So when a player goes out into the pitch and they're running off really low glycogen, the fatigue's going to faster, they're going to get slower, the second half's going to be crap. But knowing the right people that are going to teach you other things, like that diet's just ridiculous for this. It's going to make a huge difference to players' games. So I feel your pain there.
Yeah. Similar to the PT scene, like so many personal trainers try to give diet advice and nutrition advice, and it's like, my sister's an exercise phys. She's got, I don't know, some other doctor and something else. And she always rambles on to me about how much she hates like PTs and their nutrition and this and that and whatever. So I'm sure you probably feel the same way in that space.
Yeah. Do you know, I even pull this back to like GPs. Like, the amount of GPs that give really deep advice on a lot of things. I get it, you are a doctor, and that's understood, and you've spent a lot of time studying that, but they are not specialists in their field. So when they're giving advice on specialist things, it should be handballed to a psychologist or an actual dietitian, or like real people that have spent a lot of time on that. Yeah, but they're very quick to give advice on things that are a little bit out of their depth. But yeah. All right. So how can parents support their children without putting too much pressure on them? I assume this would be hard because all the parents like believe their kid's the next.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the most common things I get told is this exact phrase. Yeah, so look, I know you probably get this a lot, and I know a lot of parents probably say this, you know, and look, I'm not like other parents, you know, like I'm not one to say my kid's amazing if he's not amazing, but you know, he's got it, he's amazing, he's this, and that same phrase I've probably heard hundreds of times. I've never actually like gone on camera to like say this, but I hear it all the time. They all phrase it the same, and I know. Okay,
Can
he's gonna tell me he's amazing.
Can you make a meme for that?
I reckon I could start recording my my calls, and I reckon I could make within 2 weeks like some crazy edit of people saying the same thing. Look, it's love goggles. I think at the end of the day, and I think it's good. You know, I'd rather deal with the parent that, you know, loves their child so much that, you know, they want to support them and they want to be there for them and you know, they think they're amazing. And I think that's easier than the other parents that I've dealt with, because while a minority, I've also had parents that have gone, like, I don't think he's that good. Oh. Yeah, like when you get one-on-one, you know, people really open up to me because you're sort of like the before of sort of a big decision. And they sort of want my opinion on it or whatever, but they'll say that. And I think I can tell with those parents that it's just, I couldn't imagine what life would be like for that kid in that household if they're saying that to me.
That's my thought process on that as well. Like, for the kid to be already at your doorway and their parents holding them back that much, like, the kid must be pretty tough, like, mentally.
Yeah, and so, look, what can they do to not put pressure? This is a tough one. I think sometimes pressure is good, you know, controversial. I think when you're young, you don't realize how fast life is moving. You don't realize how quick everything's just going to go. And sometimes some players need a push. Some, you know, and I think they'll be thankful for it, you know, like, I've definitely, you know I needed a push when I was younger in certain areas of my life that I didn't get, right? Now looking back as an adult, I think other players don't need a push. I think other players are more self-serviced and they can probably do things by themselves and they have the mentality to go by themselves, and so you should let them fly. Yeah. And I think it's finding that balance of not making your dreams their dreams, but if they have vocalized certain things, then I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, giving a push. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But there are those parents that are like they hammer little Jimmy if he's missed that tackle or
I think that's a very if we're talking about like the I've also had like helicopter parents that it's like, you know, thankfully now I no longer I sort of just push them to one of my support agents and they can sort of deal with it. But yeah, the every little thing, you know, is an issue, and you gotta you're changing things all the time, and it's just toxic for everyone involved, the players especially, and I think it's a very quick way of having a player fall out of love with football. Yep. So quick, like, especially when they, like, even older players, like, I reckon you get to, even, I've got 18, 19-year-olds, I can see it in their eyes sometimes where they're sort of starting to fall out of love with football because it gets very, very serious very quick. Yeah. And they were amazing players, and then the mentality holds them back because they, you know, 18, 19-year-olds, like, they're kids as well.
And life's hard enough as it is around that age, like
100%.
French social groups.
Life's hard enough for us.
Yeah.
You know, imagine, you know, an 18-year-old, 19-year-old just finished high school trying to figure it all out, and on top of that, you've got the parents breathing down their neck, and the football and everything. So I think players need to enjoy football always, regardless of the age, and that should be the number one focus. And so if that's not the focus of the parents, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I love that. How important is it to have a good network in the football industry to succeed as a player?
I'll paint the picture. Let's say you were born, you're an absolute baller. Messi-like. But you live inland Australia, up, no one knows you exist.
Yeah, that's useless.
And on the other coin, you are an average player, but your dad was a professional football player. You have access to one of the best agents in the world. And just out of pure acronym, nepotism, you're placed in the under 18s of some first division club.
Yeah.
Life isn't fair. That's how it is. But we can work to get closer to this side.
Yeah.
And being a good player than being a good player and being no one.
So, okay, so say if they didn't have the dad that was an ex-professional, and they're young, starting out, maybe moved a couple of clubs through the youth years, and they're like meeting people. It's good for them to sort of, or is it good for them to sort of like have that attitude, I guess, that really good attitude to help out, make a good name for yourself as a good person to all these different people, and sort of, does that help sort of promote you, I guess? I suppose, because it's quite a small sort of circle of people, isn't it? Like the coaches all talk to each other. And I guess you make contacts through that way, and one of them might end up with a different team or working alongside you or something like that, and then saying, hey, I remember this guy, or he might come to trial. And like, is that sort of an important attribute, I guess, to have?
Yeah, so in terms of a player going overseas and trialing or whatever, is that what you're sort of saying? Or
yeah, well, anyway? I think like from the start, so say if it's a child and he's playing out and he's sort of a bit brash, or, like, I'm really good, but doesn't really like, connect with people, or like, the club might be like, oh yeah, he can be a bit like this, but is it better to have a really good persona, that good attitude, the good, like, I guess, you meet that player and he's just like sunshine when he walks into the dressing room, like every time, and you're like, oh, I love it when he's on the team, or I love it when he's out today. Like, I feel like that kind of, to try and, I don't know, be a good person can really help you to go far, or to get people talking about you, and maybe grow those connections in that network.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, the football world is very small. Like, incredibly small. I know from the outside, like, and a player might be, or a parent might be listening to this and they start thinking about first division clubs or whatever, and they think this is so out of reach. It is crazy, right? But I'll never forget on my first trip, business trip, for elite football, right? In 3 weeks, I hit like 13 clubs. I visited 13 professional clubs, right? And every time I went to a different club, they'll ask me, oh, where'd you come from? And I'll talk to them where I came from, right? And they'll go, so do you talk to this guy? And I go, yeah, I did speak to that guy, And everywhere I went, they all knew each other. Every single person knew about everyone else. And I'm sure they all talked about me. And I'm sure, and they're all telling me about other people that I worked with in the industry or whatever, and their experience, whether good or bad. And so I think you think that, the world is huge, and it is, but I actually think it's a lot smaller than you think. And a lot of the times, I've had one player actually that I sent to a second division club, and he wasn't quite skillful enough to make the team, but this kid is like the nicest kid. Like, he's, like you're saying, he walks into a room, sunshine, like everyone loves him. You can't hate him. Like, he's just that guy, and the club offered him a half scholarship, and they said to me, we've never done this before, but we just love what he brings to the team and to everything, that we want to just give him like 6 months, see if he can actually adapt, see if he can get better.
Wow.
Purely on him as a person, and not even him as a player. Now, I've been doing this for like 5 years. Never has that happened again. It was just with this one player.
Yep. But
I think that probably speaks volumes on how much that can add to things. And then, the obvious one is, I think sometimes players don't realise that, you might go to a trial and be unsuccessful, and you're talking to these coaches or whatever, but they had a good impression of you. They thought you were a good player. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. That same coach then goes to a different club the next year, remembers you. You shared the contact. You've got his number. Whatever. He's gonna buzz you and go, hey, why don't you come over and try this? And a lot of the times, I have players that they build connections themselves where I send them. You know, players give me connections because that's just how the football world works. You know, they don't realize that they're also in and amongst it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's so true. I think like something good to take from that, or an idea to take from that, is like every training session or every trial or every coach you meet is sort of an opportunity to, you know, make your character stand out, or to give that positive sort of attitude out, and then to make them have that thought like, oh, that guy that's the sunshine. Let's give him another 6 months. Yeah. How'd that go, by the way? Did he turn it around, or?
He didn't take it.
Oh, he didn't take the 6 months?
No, he didn't take it.
Oh,
no. Yeah, it was a tough one because I was honest with the player. Like, look, you know, I think it'll be difficult for you, but this is what you've got.
Yeah.
If you want it. But he didn't want to take it. Yeah.
Hopefully things have still kept going for him now, and he's still like smiling and stuff like that.
Yeah. He's good. I still keep in touch with him. He was at actually one of my events just in Melbourne. Yeah, it's a weird one. I think you should always be humble. Never. Don't underestimate where someone else is going to be in the future. Obviously, don't do things in order to get something out of it in the future. But I think when you're young and you're, you know, think you're the shit, because it's like a lot of players have like huge egos, let's be honest. Yeah. Everyone in the football world has a huge ego. Yeah. You don't know where that assistant coach is going to be in 3 years. You have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea who you cross paths with and where they're going to go in the football, because everyone's living their own lives, everyone's moving their own pace or whatever, and you don't know what doors are going to be open because of someone that you didn't even think of when you were at some club. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so how much does a player's social media presence have on? How does that affect their career, or how much does that affect their career now? I guess like from a positive and negative. So I'm shooting like, you know, players have their social media accounts where they're sharing their highlights, you know, things they've done, captain under 14 to this team, stuff like that. And then there's also the negative side where they've done something bad or posted, like David Coote recently.
Oh, I didn't hear about it.
Oh, there's a referee in England that was...
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't think that was too bad, to be honest. Everyone's just soft, I think, nowadays. Yeah. Look, yeah, it can have a negative impact if you're posting silly stuff on there, like be smart about it, which most kids aren't. In terms of positive, I don't really know. I don't think I've fully seen what it can do. I will say actually that if you're really good at it, if one of your skill sets is editing or filming or doing whatever, I think you can open doors for players that are probably way worse than people think they are, because of the views, because of the likes, because of what you can provide, you know. And I think you always have to think about what value you can bring to the table regardless, and look at your strengths versus your weaknesses before you do anything, and just focus all in on your strengths and try to get whatever you can out of it, you know. Some people have a lot of money and so they use that as leverage, you know. Other people are really good at social media. Other people have what as a man, you know, I think this can probably speak a bit closer. You got to think about what value you can provide to walk in through a door or whatever. And so if someone's really good at social media and you're making like these clips, these cool edits or whatever, and they're just getting heaps of views, and there are some players that I won't name drop, I'll tell you afterwards, but they do it really well and they get heaps of views, and I think people perceive them as way better than they actually are because of it. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I always thought that, look, like they could send their account that they've created with their highlights and things that they've done in games. I thought they could use that as sort of a semi-footballing CV that they could send to guys like you and stuff like that. And would that help them?
For sure. It's easier looking to your phone than having to go to an email to check a highlight, to go to YouTube or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I think now something I do for sure is if someone wants to work with me or whatever, like... even if someone's applying to work with elite football, right? They want to be an agent or something. When I get that email and I see their name, like, guilty pleasure, I will go on Instagram and I'll search their name and be like, what does this guy look like? So I think having that presence and showing your personality and doing whatever and does work in your favor because it makes you real. You know, it shows you might have one little post or whatever. Maybe it could be stupid. Maybe it could be like some Star Wars thing that you're into. You're into Star Wars, and the guy looking at your profile, yeah, he's a football guy, but he's also into Star Wars, and he picks that out, and he goes, now he's remembered you as like, oh, that's the kid that's a Star Wars.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars guy.
Exactly,
Yeah.
And so it's underrated, I think, and a lot of players, I think, that are part of that. I don't know if it's Gen Z. I don't know what the Gen is, but they don't want to be on social media. If you go on Instagrams, none of them post. They all just put stories.
Oh.
Like the 80% of players I work with, they don't actually do posts. They just do stories, and they don't want to like be out there, you know, because it's nonchalant. You know, they want to be. It's like the cool thing to do, or like whatever.
Oh.
Like, and I think that's so. Yeah, I think they're just there's a lot they're not capitalizing on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like you said, like I think that's good as well. Like them showing their little unique things, like if they like Star Wars or something like that. Like that's a great way for people to remember you as you know you come to that trial and like it's that Star Wars kid. Like that, yeah. It does seem like a missed opportunity.
Whatever it is, yeah, it's. I even have players that don't want me to post their highlights on the Elite YouTube or whatever,
No?
because it's like the fear of judgment, the fear of people are going to know that I'm going to try this thing overseas and I might come back and it might not work. You know, people don't really want to go all in because of other people's opinions or whatever. And look, we were young as well, and I'm young, but I was younger, and
I'm hanging in there.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And like we felt the same way, and you just have to get over that hump.
Yeah.
But I think most players should get over that sooner and force themselves to not care, and not care to the point where they're just themselves, and people can see that, and it will help open doors, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Okay, so what should players and their families expect during like a contract negotiation?
It depends. Is this an amateur player that's a first contract? Is this a semi-pro? Is this a pro? Like, what are we working with?
Let's go for a pro. Or let's go for their first contract actually. Like a player, yeah, they I guess what about like if they're going overseas, a first contract, they've done a trial, I'm assuming. They've got a first contract offer. What would that sort of look like?
Okay, so amateur player goes to a club, has a trial period of say 3 months or something, and the club wants to offer them something. Look, this depends on what team the club wants them to participate in. If it's a youth team, it's going to be totally different to if he's competing for one of the senior teams, right? If it's a youth team, obviously the age, it changes because sometimes they word it as a scholarship because it's under 16 and that sort of stuff. But if we just say contract, let's just say, I don't know, whatever, 18-year-old or something. Basically, at minimum, at least what I get for players is they get their accommodation, their food, transport, and all their necessities fully paid for by the club, right? For that year. So if it's a year, they get all that paid for, they don't pay a cent. Then it depends on how good the player is, right? In terms of what I can negotiate. But usually it's just what I like to call a bit of pocket money, right? And then, can you tell I'm really trying to say too much? And then if it's for the senior teams, then it obviously changes a little bit more, because if he's going to be competing in the first team or whatever, then there's a lot more wiggle room that I have there. But normally, for that first contract, I would not be expecting very much. It's already hard enough for me to get you something because they know you're an amateur player.
Yeah.
And so them just covering is more than enough.
For the first team contracts, is there all these like underlying bonuses? like, you know, if he makes the bench, if he makes the first team, if he scores 20 goals a season, like, is there things like that you negotiate, or is it just depending?
They can be very tedious, very complicated.
Oh, really?
Especially if they are a bigger club, like if it's a first or second division club. Yes, it's very hard to.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those like lines.
There's heaps. Yeah, it's a lot of back and forth.
Wow.
But if it's third, fourth, fifth division, where it's closer to our MPL system, it's pretty much how it works in the MPL system.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so what do you guys do for like a player's, I guess, mental health and their well-being? So through like a high pressure situation. So if they're overseas and they're calling you up and like, hey, like I'm having a hard time, how do you guys support them in that? Like,
it's always tough. And I guess it happens. Every player's different. You've got players that so easy going. They just love being there. They want to come back home. And then there's other players that, something I've noticed, it's the, for lack of a better word, dumber players. The say the Cole Palmer type of players, right? That I actually prefer to work with.
right.
Because they're not overthinking. They're not, criticizing themselves too much on their game performance. They're not looking at every little thing. They don't care if their room's not the biggest or if they're sharing a room. They don't care about the food. They don't care about anything. They just want to have fun and play ball. And to me, it's so easy to manage those players.
Yeah.
And they're the players that just perform, from my experience. Now, the players that are more like me, very analytical, very, they overthink, they try to look at every little detail, they want to improve so badly, they want to, all this other stuff. They're the ones that struggle overseas because they're the ones that feel the sense of missing out. They feel not being at home. They feel, everything way more. And so it's tough, because really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say, or obviously I can help players and I have helped players with my experiences and trying to explain to them what they need to go through. But ultimately, players just have to bite the bullet. There's literally no way around it. You just have to suffer for 3, maybe more months, whatever it takes for someone to adapt and just, this is my life now, and then they get over everything, to then be able to start enjoying it and go through,
Yeah. Yeah, because I can imagine it'd be quite difficult for some players, like, just leaving home or where they're from, their family and friends and that. But yeah, that's the thing, like, they got to sort of like just chill out, be Cole Palmer, enjoy the ride, appreciate it. Yeah.
Control the controllables.
Yep.
That's what I say. You literally can only control like 1 or 2 things while you're there. Focus on that. Don't worry about anything else. Let me do the other stuff. Let whatever, what's going to happen is going to happen. Like, you can't.
Yeah. If it works, it works. If
Yep.
it doesn't, yeah.
Obviously, there's other situations where I guess the benefit of working with, I'm shamelessly plugging myself here, of working with sort of me or my company that has a lot of different clubs that we work with, is when there's a serious situation or a player goes, this is not for me. Because sometimes you got to trust the player. If the player goes, I'm not going to make it this team, or they're not interested in me, right? We just pull them out, send them to a different club.
Yeah.
And so there's that type of stuff that helps. They don't have to just bite the bullet for X amount of time if it really isn't for them.
Yeah.
There's always other options.
Yeah, that's really good because, they've got that opportunity. Like, it's not end of the show. Like, it's not like, oh my God, I've stuffed it up here. I've got no chance. Like, you've got that opportunity where, like, hey, it's not working for me. Right. Well, at least we've got other options. Yeah, that's great. That's really good. Okay, so what are like the biggest challenges for Aussie players trying to break it into top overseas leagues?
Biggest challenges. Look, I guess.
Like, is there that whole he's from Australia sort of thing, and they look down a little bit on them?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I think that's more of us. You're
Yeah.
worried about that perspective. Because I don't really think clubs actually care about that.
Yeah. Surely if like they turn up and they're like,
Yeah.
they're good, and then they're good character and stuff like that, they're like, I don't care where you're from.
Yeah, exactly. I think obviously ages and the obvious stuff like passports and things like that do play somewhat of a role. There's always ways around it, right? I don't want to use that as an excuse. I've signed plenty of people that only have Aussie passports, right? I guess it would come down to, I think players struggle sometimes with the language barrier. Some clubs that we work with, like most clubs we work with, have English-speaking coaches. Generally, Spain's pretty good with that. But there is some clubs that don't necessarily have English-speaking coaches, so that is a bit of an issue for players. Because, it's hard to make a connection with people when they don't speak English, right? I would say missing home as well is probably the most common. Language barrier, missing home.
Do you find that happens more with like the younger players or the older players?
Mixed bag.
Mixed, yeah.
Yeah, mixed bag. I'll go back to when I was trying to go pro. My one of those memories that just like it will never leave you. My first sort of academy residency when I was like trialing somewhere, I remember I got there, and my first week I was put in a room with like 2 other boys, and I just remember like hearing them sob at night for like a week straight, like.
And they were from somewhere else as well?
Yeah,
or?
other places, of the
Yeah,
world.
wow. Geez, that'd be hard for you.
Well, I'm pretty sure I cried the first night or so as well. Just the shock factor of
I'm not cutting that out, by the way.
No, that's all right. The first night of like, damn, you land and you're just like, oh, I'm not home.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping in a different bed. I'm in a different
Have
city.
you travelled before that? Like, have you done some overseas holidays?
No, that was my first.
Oh, wow, so that's even bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, but I was 17, and so that was not old, but not young, you know, and it still hit me. And I remember, and I thought I was like tough, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's perfectly normal. And I think I just switched on like the fight or flight kind of thing while I was there. But there were definitely players that they did not break out of it for like a good 2 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
Until they sort of started to mellow out a little bit more.
Yep.
I've had players I've sent over and they've come back home within 3 days.
Yep.
I've had a player land. So listen to this. I sent a player once and he landed in Madrid, right? But he was going into a different city within Spain, right? So Madrid is the main airport, right? But he was going into a different airport, to go to a different club, right? As he lands in Madrid, I get the message, hey Alan, I've landed, about to hop on the other flight, but I think I'm going to go home in a couple of days. I'm just missing home terribly, like I don't want to do this or whatever.
Wow.
He went to the other flight, he was there for 2 days, came back home. He was meant to be there for 6 months. I had 3 clubs lined up for him.
Oh, no.
And so that's someone that just in the, like, you picture those 23 hours him flying.
Just psyched himself out.
He just psyched himself out. You know? And so he was 18.
Yeah. See, I don't get that because, like, I'd be super excited. Like, on the way, I've just landed in Madrid, like, one of the most amazing cities in the world, in Spain. Like, it's not like you're going to, like, a freezing cold country where it's, like, always raining and stuff. Like, beautiful country to play football.
Yeah. I think with this player as well, I think he had a girlfriend as well. And so that's one of my rules as well. It's if they've got a girlfriend, no girlfriend. No girlfriend, no boyfriend. It's always a pull. It's always a negative pull. I've very rarely seen it be a positive pull for young people.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Yeah, definitely.
Their hormones are already going crazy. Like it's never good.
Yeah. So one of your things is if you've got a partner, then no.
These are one of my things. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I can understand that though. That's. Yeah, I can imagine there's so many players that just don't make it. And I bet you like they've broken up with that partner like in the next couple of years or something like that and they're looking back on, wow, like...
We have players that message us still that regret of them not pursuing it or coming back or whatever because of their partners.
Wow.
This is not just a one case thing. We've had multiple cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. You help players when they face like injuries or setbacks?
I've never actually had to help anyone that's had an injury so far.
Oh,
So,
touch wood.
yeah, so I've been pretty fortunate.
So all your players are just injury free.
Yeah,
What are you feeding them?
I don't know. Yeah, I've never had actually someone. I've had people obviously.
There you go, sign with Alan and you'll never get injured again.
I've had people, message me, oh, I can't make the trial because I'm injured or whatever, but they're not my players,
Right.
I've had different situations like that, or maybe the rare, someone's overtraining overseas because obviously they come from training 2-3 nights a week here to training double sessions a day over there. And so after 2 weeks, they're like, their body's like, what are you doing to me?
What a shock,
right?
yeah.
And it's high intensity because
Yes.
it's plays that give you less than a second on the ball,
Yeah.
right, on the press. So I've had players that go, oh, I've pulled this or whatever, but it's been very mild things
Right.
where they just get over it after a week or two.
Yeah.
We've never had anything crazy to deal with.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective to talk about actually, is like preparing their body prior to going over. Like that is massive, like to go from 2-3 sessions a week to going over somewhere to doing doubles a day. Yeah, it's definitely worth players thinking about preparing in that facet before getting over. Is that something like you guys sort of encourage? Is like, hey, just letting you know, like before you're heading over, maybe start working through this, or like here's a strength and conditioning coach that we recommend, or
Yeah, we do have people that we can set people up with. To be honest, probably something that I should be better at. One of the things in the agency that we should actually, we are working on, we're always, I guess, working on the experience and the service, right? Better word, the service that we're providing for players. So the setup, whether we provide someone that does their nutrition beforehand and all this sort of stuff, is something that we'll probably, work towards. Right now, we don't do much of it. Our bulk is, we're an agency, right? We don't do every little aspect of a player's journey because there's just so much
100%,
of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, this is a question from one of the parents actually. So are UK academies interested in Australian talent with right to remain access?
With right to remain at, because they can't sign anyone on under 18, is that what you mean?
I guess so.
Does the question say UK academies?
Yeah, it asked about UK academies. Do you do much with the UK?
No, not at all.
Not yet, yeah.
No, not at all.
Is that because you don't want to, or?
Yeah, it's my, I guess, opinions on academies and all that sort of stuff is very, very strong, I think. I really don't like that industry. I don't like the tours. I think if you watch my YouTube videos, I go through all that stuff all the time. But like anything that's like a 2-week trial, come here, do a 2-week trial. Come do this tour and we'll play you against 3-4 different clubs in the region, whatever it is. It's all experience based.
Right, so that's all just...
BS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what you're offering is you're offering actual 3, 6, 12-month trials with the teams, and you're getting possible sign, whereas they're offering a tour and a 4-week kick around.
Put it this way: who in their right mind is going to invest in an amateur Australian footballer after seeing them for 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's impossible. 100%.
You just can't. It just doesn't happen. A club has to go, okay, I'm going to invest X amount of money to bring this person from Australia here that's never played professional, right? That probably still needs a bit of development.
Yep.
Pay for all their food, pay for their accommodation, pay for their transport, give them pocket money or whatever, for a maybe, right?
Yep.
And for a player that doesn't have an agent either. So you're telling me the club is going to, out of their goodness of their heart, a club that has millions of players interested in playing there is just going to go, yeah, we'll choose you. We have no one else putting pressure on us. We're just going to, we've seen you play against a few local teams. Yep.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. And I hate it. I hate the industry.
Yeah, I can understand why.
And it just, look, it's ultimately people playing with dreams. To each their own. Maybe there is something else that they do that I'm just not aware of, but from what I see and from players and parents that have told me about different people and what their service and what they do. It's like something that breaks my heart as well is like I had a player today at our Adelaide event, talking about his son, 13. He goes, yeah, I just want to expose him, bring him to all these different trials or whatever. We're taking him to Spain to do Barca Academy. And I looked at him like, okay. And he goes, yeah, I know, it's only like an experience thing, most likely. And I was like, no, it's an experience thing. That's it. Like not most likely, that's it. I'm sorry if this hurts your like feelings, but if you can get your money back, get your money back.
Yeah.
And it's just because. And I said to him, like, if that's what you want, it's fine. He's only 13, so he's got plenty of time. It'll be good for him. It'll be fun. But if it's not, like, I'd seriously think about what you're doing. So to me, that and the excuse of, oh, he doesn't have a European passport or he doesn't have this or whatever, is like the most common thing they say to people, or he has to wait till he's 18 to make them think that there's still a chance to upsell them again in the future, when really no club in their right mind that has seen a player that they really think that could make them money in the future is going to let them go just because of something as silly as a passport.
Yeah.
But how do you explain that to someone that doesn't understand the industry?
Yeah. Wow. It's really quite interesting. And the amount of money that's being thrown at these academies it's absolutely atrocious, hey? And like some families, like, there's families out there struggling and they've just lumped money towards their kid having this little experience that they think is gonna, yeah. Oh man, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, look, I know people that spend the same amount of money in what, say, we could set up for a 3 month trial, being direct at a club, everything paid for, whatever, in 2 weeks in some random UK thing. Just to give you a comparison, 2 weeks, 3 months, direct versus 3-4 local teams.
Yeah.
That's just how insane it is, the overcharge and whatever, but,
Yeah.
to each their own.
Yeah. Is there like, I'm assuming like obviously there's heaps of global agents, right? Are all of them getting their kids to go out for these 3 month trials and stuff like that? Like, is there lots of kids going into these clubs, and is there is it hugely competitive?
I think there's look, it's tough because like some random agent in Lithuania might have 2 players he works with at a time a year, so there's a lot of smaller fish in the industry.
Gotcha.
I don't know, that they probably do flick players to different places. I guess I only know the sort of big dogs and what they do. That's sort of what I keep track of.
Yeah.
But you got to, like anything, you got to stay in what you're good at. Stay in your sort of niche. I think there's agents that focus on semi-pro players, and they focus on players that have already got somewhat of a name, and they want to make sort of XYZ money off the flip or whatever.
Right.
You've got players that just focus on professional players, and not the professional players you're thinking of, like first division, but there'll be professional players that are playing, maybe in like a random third division in Netherlands, but they may also represent their nationality, their country, because their country might be like South Korea or something, right? And so they'll work with them, and while their wage is a lot smaller, it's a lot easier for them to, be in that sort of area. So I'm focusing on amateur players right now and that transition, so I think there's different agents and they do different things for different players. It's just about finding what works for you, what you're looking for.
Yeah. Is it hard for players to find those specific agents?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be. Like, it's not easy to find like who you're looking for, I guess. And that sort of goes back to sort of this clouding of crap on social media, that it's hard to filter through to find the right information or the right people that you are looking for to get you where you want to go. Yeah.
It's it's back to what you were saying about the content that I'm pushing out and all that sort of stuff. There isn't many people that do that. It's hard to reach people as well. I get players that message me. I've messaged you like 5 different times or whatever, and it's just like I could show you my TikTok inbox right now. There's 200 plus messages, you know, and so by the time I have time to actually go through and sort the 100, you know, Africans that say, "Sir, please, can I have a chance," or whatever, to the one Australian player or something that I can actually help. It's one of those things, you know, and so it's not only hard to find people, but it's also even hard to reach out to them.
Would you suggest for a player, like the Australian players, not the Africans, but for them to like continually keep messaging you, to really like try and like, you know, don't just try once. Like if you haven't written back, maybe just to keep trying a few times, and you know, hopefully you get to that free spot in the inbox.
yeah, definitely follow up as much as possible. I think you got to hit people's ego as well. I say that this is so silly, but I say it because it's true, you know, and I'll get an email that I'll get the same sort of copy paste email where I can tell the player has copied that email and sent it to 10 academies, me and someone else, right? Where it's like, "Hi, this is my CV, blah, blah, I'd love to, what do you think?" You know? I don't have time to tell you what I think about your CV and your highlights, you know? I'm not going to take time out of my day to do that, right? And that's just the brutal truth. But then there'll be players that go, "Hey, loved your videos when you said this or whatever, like blah, blah, blah. And hey, like I'd love to work with you. What would be the next steps or whatever?" And I can tell they're like, you know, a bit more personal. I almost feel bad not replying to that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And this
do.
is me just being honest.
Yes.
Like, this is the stuff I'd want players to do. Even if they're not reaching out to me, they're reaching out to someone else. What can you say about them to make them feel like, yeah, I, you know, want to reply to this message? Yeah, okay. And so that's probably what I'd say.
Yeah, I like that. That was a really good tip. Okay, so what advice do you have for young players who are trying to balance football with school and other commitments?
Look, I say to, I think you should always go all in, personally.
So just quit school, get out of it?
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
No, look, I think, just so parents don't get upset at me, you can find balance to things. You can. It goes back to like the start of the conversation where it's very player specific. Do they crumble under pressure? Like, is this a player that actually likes doing their schoolwork, they get on top of it here in Australia, and then they also go to training and they stay on top of it, and their mental health is good and they can perform and everything's good? Okay, they can probably translate that while they're trialing overseas. They can probably keep studying and training and performing. If it's a player that's not performing in school, only wants to focus on football, and then you force him to still do uni, or you force him to study or whatever, and then go overseas and trial and whatever, he's not gonna be able to balance it. He's gonna crumble. It's best for him not to do that. Take the gap year.
Yep.
Don't go to uni. You'll always have time to do that thing. You can always go all in, and even if this fails, you can then do uni and go all in, and you know, and succeed. Like, we have so much more time than people think we do, and it's just about you swallowing your pride and getting that uni degree when you're in your 30s instead of doing it when you're in your 20s. And it depends on like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Like, how do you want to, you know, try football for 10 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 3 years? What is it?
Yeah.
But I think you should go all in.
Yeah, I agree. Why not? Like, it's for the dream, isn't it?
You will die one day.
Yep. Yeah.
Like really.
Jeez, Al.
No, but do you know what I mean? It's sort of
pretty
like
dark.
Yeah, but it's like,
yeah.
You know, parents put a lot of pressure and kids put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, nothing really matters.
Yeah, one thing that I sort of think about a lot is when I do get to those final days, I want to look back and be like, I went for it. Like, you know, like be proud of like what I had a crack at and what I attempted. And I think if a player, like you was just saying before about like the girlfriend thing, but like if a player gets there, and you always hear so many people, like the guys are the father's friend or something like that, and they're telling the story about, oh, I could have done it. I had that chance, but yeah.
But I married your mum, or I had a knee injury, or whatever the excuse is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically
we all know someone.
Yeah. Don't be that guy. Chase your dream. What are the common traits of the most successful players you've represented?
They all worked with me? No, I don't know. Look, it'd probably be the Cole Palmer thing.
Mm.
Yeah, it's probably the mellower the player, the easier it is for me to manage, the easier it is for them to perform.
Yeah.
The other one's probably grit.
Yeah.
It's probably the players that have trialled not just at one club, they trialled at 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, okay.
That takes a lot.
So like for instance, younger players, like coming up, before they get to the age that you guys are sending them out, should they be sticking with the one club, or should they like trial through different clubs and like get used to maybe that, I guess the failure of not getting picked for one team, or trialing with different coaches in the different environments and stuff like that?
So, yeah, when we look at exposure, it's like there's such a small group of people that are going to make something happen in the first club they go to. And even if we bring it down to like the Australian level, there's so many players that go, oh, I trialled at this NPL club and I didn't make it, so I'm going to go play state league. Yeah, but did you trial at 5 NPL clubs?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
And so it's sort of like that where, yeah, like do more.
Yeah,
do more of the thing.
Keep knocking,
yeah. To get the outcome. Like,
yeah.
It's not always going to happen with like the first club.
Yep.
But as you stack them on, it's like you're getting closer and closer. At a sheer inertia, like just a mathematical equation, like you're going to have more results if you try more.
Yeah. And you always hear about, the ultra players, like Harry Kane got let go by Arsenal and then Tottenham nearly got rid of him, and Declan Rice, I think West Ham gave him he had 2 games left, or else they would sack him, and he was at Chelsea, he went to West Ham, and West Ham were like, we'll give you 2 games, if you don't perform these 2 games, like you're done.
Yep.
And he turned it on for those 2 games, but like if he hadn't, he wouldn't be where he is now. Like, yeah, it seems like, like you get dropped by Chelsea, try West Ham, try the next one. Yeah, because it's not always going to be a coach, or you might have an off day, or a few off days, or you might be sick, or have a nagging girlfriend.
Yeah, there's plenty more names to add to that list as well.
Yeah.
I think everyone sees the highlights and no one sees the actual work that was put in together.
Yeah.
And it's delusional to think that I'm not good enough because I went here and they said no. I think that's easy. It's easy to say that. And it's easier to think that you're going to go to one club and make it than to go, you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice a whole year or 2 years or whatever, and I'm just going to knock on doors. Or I'm just going to do this until I can't anymore.
Yeah.
Then maybe it would probably work out.
Yeah, for sure. It's very respectable as well. Like I love you're hearing that tale of someone that just kept knocking and kept trying, and they eventually make it. Or even if they don't make it, I respect that person massively. Yeah.
Because we're all the underdog, right? We all want to look at people we know that struggle. Like that's the beauty, I guess, of everything anyone does.
Yeah.
Is that we can feel like we're that guy. You know?
Yeah.
We all want to be that guy. No one wants to be the guy that just got handed everything.
Yeah. Do you know Alex Hormozy by any chance?
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. Have you heard him telling you a story about how he started the gym and he was sleeping in the gym floor and stuff, and everyone was cheering him on, and then he made it, and all of a sudden people were talking crap about him. And he's like, hang on a sec, you were just cheering for me, but now I'm here, you're all off me. But yeah, it's silly how us human beings can be.
I had a bit of a reverse to that. I think for me, I had when I started pursuing my own business or whatever, I did fall out with my friend group with it as it started to pick up. So maybe that's correlation, but for me it was more. Everyone was very quiet for years, probably 4 or 5 years, and then now a lot of people come out of the woodwork.
Oh, of course, yeah.
A lot of people come knocking doors and praising you and whatever, and
yeah,
that's probably the beauty. I actually made a video on YouTube the other day that I pretty much explained this, and I go you need that, hold that. I held people's opinions and people's comments and all the naysayers and everything. I held it to my chest for so many years, and I used it as fuel to sort of get me through so much of it in the early stages. Then you pass that line and you sort of realize that no one cares and you don't care anymore and whatever, and we all live our own lives and that's it.
Yeah.
And so the fuel source has to change because you need to get to that next stage.
Of course, yeah.
But for players, if you're watching this, you could probably relate to a friend, a family member, or someone that doesn't believe in you or has negative comments or gives you a reason to, you know, not want to do something, but all it does is sort of make you want to do it even more to prove them wrong. And I think that's as a man, I think it's such a strong fuel source to have to actually use it. Like use whatever fuel source you have. Like as I got older, I had different fuel sources that motivated me to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think you need to just appreciate where you're at and use that and go for your life.
Yeah. That's some good advice. Which players from Australia should we be looking out for?
Should we be looking out for?
Yeah, who's coming up? Who's exciting? Or do you know of any of your players that are?
Yeah, I got a few. I can name drop some of mine that recently signed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go Rico Salam, recently signed to second division Real Oviedo. I'll go Luke van Barneveld, recently signed to Celta Vigo, first division club. I'll go Orlando Angelevski, bit of a shadow one. He signed for like a third division club, Real Avila in Spain, but I reckon he'll get his senior debut closer than the other two. Look, I've got other players, but I don't really focus on the Australian like clubs, players, all that. My job's sort of exporting. I stick to my focus is sort of Europe and who I can sort of convert. And a lot of players that I work with, people didn't even know about.
Have we really, like, I don't remember a time where like we had an Australian exporting thing to Spain. Like, you seem to be doing it, like, and I don't recall anyone else doing that. Like, I don't remember heaps of young players, like, making their way out. That's pretty cool. Are you sort of the first that's sort of making that happen?
I mean, I hope so. I don't know. That'd be cool.
Yeah. It just seems, sorry, but it just seems like a really untapped, like, Australians, like, we had, like, John Aloisi over there, Osasuna, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Other than that, like...
I think people just don't care until a player's, like, senior debut. You know? Until the players actually made the senior debut, they don't make headlines.
Yeah.
You know? Which is understandable. Because, to be fair, a lot of things can go wrong. Like, these players are there now, and then in a year's time, they're out of the squad.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how football is. It's, you know? It's not always a fairy tale. But, yeah, it's funny, actually. Like, I always say, like, I'll go to, like, any part of the world, whether it be Spain, whether it be Dubai, or whatever, and I'm, like, always treated with, like, the utmost respect. Like, everyone's so nice. Everyone, like, you know, wants to work with the company and everything. And in my own hometown, or, like, even in Australia, I just don't... I mean, now it's starting to shift, but, like, for just years, like, no support. No one cared. No one... Like, it's just not the same. You know, the same feeling. And it's like... Yeah, but I work with first division clubs in Spain and I get treated like this. You know, like, look at this. And then an MPL club here, it's like, do you know what I mean? They don't want to work with you. So it's
wow.
It's a weird feeling. It's almost like, I think there's a lot of...
That is really, really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, tall poppy syndrome, maybe, in Australia.
That's so interesting. And I think that's sort of like how you were talking about your friend group. Like, I feel like the people that are around you, sort of like in your vicinity, they don't really like, they don't take you seriously or as that success or what you're doing. They just remember you as this, like the friend group at school or whatever, and like that's who you are. Mm-hmm. But like until you've actually really gone there, like even now for the NPL clubs to still not sort of take that seriously, that's wild, hey?
Yeah, it's like I said, you're never, the people that support you are not the people that are closest to you when you're starting out. It's always people that don't know you.
Yeah.
And like, it shouldn't be that way.
No.
But it just is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'll hold it to my chest. Like, there is a lot of tall poppy syndrome, I think, in Australia. And to be fair, it could be that because I'm exporting and I'm not importing, maybe they're, like, I'll go to like an MPL game and like back on the Gold Coast, and if certain clubs see me or whatever, I'll have like the president come down, like me and Dad go sit in the crowd or whatever. The president, the treasurer, they'll come down, they'll say hi to us, they'll sit next to us in the stands and just talk like, oh, what are you looking for players or whatever, and they start to get all worried.
Oh, you're gonna take them.
Yeah, so it's silly.
Yeah.
And it could just be that maybe they go, no, they're not helping us, they're helping themselves or whatever. But really, if they were smarter, I could make them a lot of money.
Yeah, you can work with them.
Yeah.
Wow. It seemed obvious
Interesting,
to
right?
me, but yeah, very interesting.
Look, I'm on it. I'm transparent. Like, I've got no filter.
Because like to me, I'd imagine like an NPL club, like I'd love to just tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, like if we get them ready, you can get them moving.
It's also just like Australia's very virgin when it comes to football. The way we do things is behind. They're not used to working with agents. We don't really have agents here. We have people selling tours and academies here, you know?
Yep.
And so they don't even know how to work with you. Because it's like even when I went to the UAE, I felt that as well. They were behind as well, what I was used to in Europe.
Okay.
And so that could be another part of the reason as well, where they actually don't understand the value.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking for like the shift. Like that could be really, really exciting for Australian football. Like if we take our players or the money that's wasted in sending them off to those academy trial things, and just pump them through you guys. That could benefit Australian football massively.
Heck, I'd love to import players. I'd love to just travel within Australia and I have to go to Europe.
Yeah.
I'd love to do the reverse, really.
So
it's a
if
lot
any
easier for
NPL
me.
clubs with a big backer is listening.
You know, like it's much easier to get around Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast than it is to travel all the way to Europe.
Yeah. I imagine you're like, it's not a holiday, is it? Like because you're landing there, you got to go to work, bang, get on with it. Company's money, so you're moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So what are you up to right now? I know you're in Adelaide and do a bit of scouting.
Yeah. So we just did the 3 events. Did Sydney, then Melbourne, now Adelaide. So tomorrow's our last day. Just scouting events. We brought 2 professional clubs here, Real Sociedad Leganés as well, 2 first division clubs. Yeah. Scouting for the next talent, I guess, in the events. There's been actually a lot of surprising figures. Very keen for the female game. I think we've introduced females this time around.
Yeah, yep.
And I see a lot of potential with female players here. So that's exciting.
Yep.
But company's always moving. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing. Might be travelling to a different country that I won't announce just yet in a few months. And moving a few things. But this is a big team. It's not just me. Big team behind it now. And there's always big projects. Which makes the work exciting, I guess, for me. Keeps it refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting. Okay, so how can we keep an eye on you going forward? And if players wanted to contact you or clubs wanted to contact you and get in touch, how can they do that?
Yeah, so look, if you're a player, I'd recommend just having a free consult with one of my support agents. So if you go to www.elitefootball.com.au, you fill out a free consultation and speak to one of the team members, and they can go through, any questions and how we work. If you're a club, email the admin info at Elite Football, and we can schedule something up there.
Perfect. That's all for today, guys. You can follow The Football Nutritionist on Instagram and X, and jump onto our blog at thefootballnutritionist.wordpress.com. Remember, keep fueling for success and kicking those goals.